Hi folks, welcome back to the channel. This is Craig Neeson Photography. I'm Craig Neeson, and today we're doing a one lens, one camera challenge with the Nikon Zf full frame camera and the Nikkor 24 to 200 millimeter lens. Let's see what we get away with doing totally handheld, no tripod. The rig's a little bit heavier than I expected. At the end, I'm going to give you my thoughts on playing with this camera, because this is it. One day with this camera. Ouch. Let's see what we get. So here we are at the river birch from the Nikon ZFC video. I'll leave a link in the description and up above. But I found that we're getting some buds finally down here. And I found this little green bud who's actually starting to leaf out. Kind of fascinating. And the bokeh of the river birch in the background is just awesome. I love it. So for a variable aperture lens, you get some nice bokeh when you're zoomed in on something and turning it into a macro-like shot.
Look at it. It's a little leaf popping out. Yes, it's definitely springtime here in Parkville. I really love the bokeh on this photo with the Nikon Zf. Even at 6.3 for an f-stop, we get some gorgeous blur. I love how the birch bark just fades away. You can still see a little bit of texture though. And I love the focus on that leaf coming out to enjoy the weather. Did very little in post-processing on this one. I just brought up the shadows a little bit and took down the highlights. There's a lot of range with one photo to do adjustments in post-processing, whether dodging or burning. Let's discuss your thoughts on this one and all the photographs down below. This is composition number 1.
So I like this image because of the trail going up into the nature sanctuary here. But what I don't like is this tree in the foreground is really out of focus. So what I think I'm going to need to do is take a shot with this tree in focus, this tree over here in focus, and then focus almost to infinity to get the background in focus, and then blend the exposures together to get sharp focus from this point all the way through the image. Let's see how this turns out.
Well, it turns out I didn't need the 3 exposures. I only needed the foreground and the midground. Here they are. You can see the foreground blurs out everything past about 5 feet, while the midground gets everything in focus after that. So what I did is I took them into Photoshop, stacked them, did a little bit of dodging and burning there to make this raw image. This is still a raw. This is a rather large file because I took the 2 and merged them together. Took them back into Lightroom and did a final crop and a little bit more fine tuning. Not much. What do you guys think? I know the scene's not correctly lit, but the lighting was just enough to draw my attention to the scene. And sometimes you just have to make the photograph that you see in front of you when you see it.
I believe this is a maple tree, and what I love is the coloration on the seeds that have already come out, while the leaves have just also popped out. So with the 24 to 200 mil, I'm getting a nice out of focus background. Sharp images in the foreground. Just smooth. Nice. I like it.
So what really drew me to this in the field doesn't show up really well in the raw image. It was the contrast of the pink seed pods and the green leaves coming out. So what I did when I got back home in post, I did a little stuff with bringing up those colors to make them match what I remember seeing in the field. The raw image is pretty flat, but once you post-process it, it comes back to what I saw in the field that day. I know this image isn't going to win any major awards. It's really just done to show the dynamic range of the Nikon Zf. I'm loving this camera. Really wish I could have had more time with it. Let me know what you think of this photograph and the other compositions down below.
Okay, now We're gonna try something a little more daring here. I'm down along the river here in downtown Parkville. We've got gorgeous riverfront parks. People come from all over the metropolitan area, the Kansas City metropolitan area. And if you're ever wondering, there are two Kansas Cities. Yes, there's Kansas City, Kansas, and Kansas City, Missouri. We live on the Missouri side, which is the larger of the two Kansas Cities in the area. Yeah, because it's the original one. Originally it was Kansas Town, back before the states were formed out here. A lot of history in the area. This is really where the West began, a long time ago. Jesse James, Doc Holliday, all these quaint little downtown areas. A lot of history in the area. But that's not what you're here for, is it? You're here for photography. Yeah, so this is my walk and talk shot. I like to do these, and I'm seeing how well the VR works on the Nikon Zf.
So here's a little bit more video shot with the Nikon Zf. 4K at 30 frames per second. I've got some more video coming up just to show you what it does when you go to 4K, 60 frames. I love these carp, by the way. It's just amazing. The raw image here for the final composition number 4, is rather flat. You do get to see some of the air bubbles in the stream. What I was seeing in the field was a little clearer than this. So in post-processing, I did some dehazing, I did some dodging and burning, and made the image that you see on the right side of the screen there. You can actually make out detail in the carp and in the rocks in the stream bottom. This little stream runs into the Missouri River not too far from a footbridge in English Landing Park in Parkville. I do love this composition. There's something about the fish and the rocks. So here's some more video shot with the Nikon Zf. 60 frames per second and 30 frames per second. There is a small crop when you go to 60 frames per second, just like the Nikon Z6 and Z6 II.
So that wraps it up for this day with the Nikon Zf and the 24 to 200 millimeter Nikkor lens that I rented with it. I paid for the rental flat out, out of pocket, out of hand. This is not a sponsored video in any way. I do happen to use lensrentals.com for my renting. If you happen to go there, you haven't rented yet before, I've got a discount code down below that will save you 25 bucks. I get a little bit of kickback for them. It costs you nothing. And this is not a sponsored video. I just have had great customer service with them, and I love their the products that they rent. They take care of all their gear. I've never had an issue. Can get something fairly quick. That's out of the way because I support companies that I believe in. So what are my takeaways on the Nikon Zf mated with the 24 to 200 millimeter variable length aperture lens? Well, it's a little bit heavier than I was expecting, yeah. I'll give you the stats over here. My likes are, I love all the tactile buttons. I can actually change the exposure through the shutter with the dial on top while the camera is shooting me with the flip out screen towards me. That's great. That's a big bonus. On that note, fully articulating screen. It goes all the way around, flips around, does whatever you need it to do. I also love the Nikon Color Science. I do love the fact that it's got 2 SD card slots. Grant, one of them is a micro SD. I kind of wish that Nikon would have gone 2 full-size SD cards. That would have made it a lot easier. Negative so far, it doesn't have the full-on grip, and I kind of need that with my wrist. I feel like I'm holding a brick. I get that it's a retro style camera. There are solutions to get around that, which if I bought this camera, or if I buy this camera, that would be the first thing I would do, is get a SmallRig grip for it so that I'm not always touching that function button. Another dislike that I've got is I've got an issue with mirrorless cameras in general, I guess. I've seen a couple where this doesn't affect me as much, but sometimes the refresh rate inside the viewfinder is a little bit off for my vision, so I can kind of catch that refresh. This isn't going to affect everybody. It's something that's odd about my vision. It's just the way that it's always worked. Another thing that I'm not too keen on is I really wish that all mirrorless cameras would have some kind of sensor shield to help reduce the amount of dust and debris that gets into the camera body. I think that's where Nikon hit it out of the park with the Z8, Z9. If that would trickle down, that'd be it. It'd be all over. This would be my camera, my last dislike. And this isn't really a knock about the camera because it's not really intended to be a full-on creative one-shot hybrid camera, but it's pretty close to being that. The built-in microphones are truly reference microphones. You need something like a lav mic, which I've been wearing today, or something in the hot shoe plugging into the internal mic jack port to eliminate that. It's really just a reference mic. All in all, love the camera, love the body, love the images that I've taken with this camera today. Too bad it's got to go back tomorrow. I'm hoping to still get out and play a little bit more with the pixel shift technology to see if I can make some really large megapixel images with it. That's why I'm out here with the tripod doing my wrap up with the tripod, because I'm trying to get some more shooting done. Hey, thank you so much for watching. If you made it this far and you liked this video on the Nikon ZF, go check out this video right here on the Nikon ZF-C, the little baby brother to this camera. If you want to see all my videos from in the field from day one, go check out this playlist. Thanks again for watching, and we'll see you next time.